It took one generation following termination and relocation for the sum of a population of very patient people who are accustomed to existing for 10,000 years at a time, to finally lose patience with a dishonest government.
If you want to oppress people or colonize people, one of the first things you do is you confine them to an area like a reservation.
Every Indian alive today is there because their ancestors survived the calamitous killing of people from 15 million down to 200,000. That is an enormous assassination of people.
People just don't seem to understand us or anything. You know, that we are as equal as any other person.
The 60s represented a very important decade in the history of social movements in America.
Anti-war demonstrators protest U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War in mass marches, rallies, and demonstrations. The estimated 125,000 Manhattan marches.
Almost everyone you talked to was involved in some type of movement for social change.
We were watching this happen, but we were saying, well, this stuff is happening to us as well. There would be ads in the paper, Indians need not apply.
And so this is the background in which American Indian movement was formed. We felt totally inspired and excited about the idea of Indian people getting together in a national movement for self-determination, for treaty rights, and against racism and discrimination.
I think that there is a bit of serendipity in history, and that partly the people who have the answers come along at just the right time, and partly the times come along at just the moment that these people are ready to do their work.
120 million Indian people, estimated 120 million Indian people have been wiped from the face of the earth since Columbus and the conquistadors landed here in this part of the world. That's why the American Indian movement was born in July of 1968, right here in North Minneapolis.
But these are the people who changed all the rules, all the way up to the White House.
Because we felt that absolutely nothing was being done to upgrade the conditions that Indian people were forced to live under here in America. Land of the free, home of the brave. They put me in solitary confinement. And that's when I met Eddie Benton Benet. I was laying there, and I think I was in there for about 4 days, and total darkness. They have a little peek hole about that big. That's all you can see, a little light come in. We're looking at one another's eye. And then he started telling me the story about, this study that him and his caseworker conducted. And they found out that every single Indian in that institution was in there for alcohol-related crimes. Every single one of them was a repeat offender. They were doing the less crimes, but they were doing the most time.
And when we were arrested, the men were beaten severely. The young women were sometimes raped by the police.
And really the initial growth, as I understand it, was right here in the Twin Cities area, where they started up street monitoring, court watching, powwows, ceremonies, various events.
We demonstrated, we carried signs, we went to meetings, we confronted various institutions that control our lives, both on the reservation and the urban areas.
We'll go knock on the door. If they don't listen, they don't hear it, we'll knock a little louder. If they don't hear us yet, we'll knock the door down and go in, and we'll have a position papers with us, what we want them to do.
That was one thing that was unique, is the action that took place that actually involved people.
It's not going out looking for a fight that I've seen. It's standing up, knowing that a fight is likely to come because the people who have been involved in shady practices, oppression, are likely to continue in that course.
When I was in college and AIM came around, it was like I was free for the first time, because I understood exactly what I wanted to do, that I wanted to be part of this movement that was about tearing down the system that had so enslaved Indian people, that had stolen land, that had made us beggars in our own land. I wanted to change that, and AIM provided the vehicle for that.
We decided to hold a powwow, so that was the first powwow in Minneapolis.
It was still outlawed by the government, still outlawed. We brought a drum down, found a couple singers.
We were trying to get people back into their culture. We were thinking that was the way that we were going to correct a lot of this, was to get them proud of themselves, and the way to be proud of your culture is to learn it and to do it.
I had a lot to do with a revival of spirituality in the Indian world, not just Minneapolis, but universally.
It was the thing that people had always said about AIM, you know, AIM drops in, and AIM isn't here. And I can remember Vernon and Clyde standing up and saying, we've got to listen to these tribal leaders and follow their advice, because they have to live here when we're gone.
I want you to know how much I love you, how much I care about you, how much this movement cares about you and each and every one of you today. And we'll never, ever allow this government and the churches that work hand in hand to strip us of our traditional way of life ever again. I make that commitment to you. You yourself make that commitment to one another, that will never happen again.
You know, I've heard some people say that, oh yeah, the movement is dying. You know, someday it's not going to be here, but I don't believe that. There's too many that support it. Strong movement, spiritual movement, and I don't believe we're going anywhere.